Hello, 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 hello. Welcome, everybody. My name is Trent Farrington. I am here with Out on Film, celebrating 35 years of film curating for LGBTQ plus films and content here in Atlanta. I am so elated to share this special guest with our audience today. This filmmaker has been kind of dominating, I believe, the field of queer and Black documentary filmmaking. He is bringing very hard conversations and topics and very important conversations and topics to the forefront of film and media as we look at it today. Micheal Rice is here in attendance, if we can give it up and just give him all the praise that there is to give.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. I'm honored.
Micheal, yes. So Micheal is here with Black as You Are, which is a documentary focused on an assortment of Black and queer issues. Micheal, I wanted to just, I guess, start by getting into kind of the flame that I think sparked this documentary. If you wanted to talk just a little bit about your play and kind of how that started and how that ended up transforming into what is this incredible piece of work.
Oh, thank you so much, and I appreciate that. Well, first of all, it's an honor for our film to be a centerpiece this year at Out on Film, and also to be in Atlanta, which a lot of people call like the gay Black Mecca here in the United States. And so, apologize about the noise. I'm in New York City, and they're using a jackhammer on the other side of my building, so this is a lot more quieter outside. But when it comes to the film, it started off as a process as a play. The play is called "There's Black in the Rainbow Too," and it was the same theme regarding homophobia within Black queer space. I mean, within the Black space in America. And we started having auditions. I was preparing to have this play performed during Pride for 2020, and it didn't happen because of COVID, obviously. So as a theater director too, a lot of people don't know I'm a theater director as well. I record a lot of my sessions as far as all of my play rehearsals for the blocking and for technical notes and things of that nature. And I ended up just saving the footage. And when we had the lockdown, we couldn't go anywhere, and we were given very few places where we could go. And then once we started getting the rounds of the medication and the vaccine out, things started opening back up. And so then I took it upon myself. I said, you know what? I really want to change the trajectory of my community. I really want to start talking about things dealing with queer phobia, homophobia, transphobia. What does that look like to have those conversations with your auntie, with your grandma, with your grandfather, with your uncles and them, and the rest of the people in your family? What does it look like to have that conversation in the barbershop? And so I found myself reaching out to people in the community, whether it was Christopher Street in Greenwich Village, or whether it was a bunch of gentlemen in a barbershop in Crown Heights or Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn. I wanted to reach out to the community and have these conversations go. And so, therefore, I created this hybrid documentary called Black as You Are, which has the elements of a play, which also have the elements of my own life itself. And then we also have the later element of the subjects who are in the documentary. We have different representation of the LGBTQIA plus community. We have trans man, a Black woman, lesbian, a Black gay male. We have a trans woman. We have a non-binary. So I wanted to try to have that representation for an entire plethora of people within our demographic, so their stories can be represented and told.
Sorry, thank you so much. I completely echo that. I think one of the powerful things about this documentary was your subjects, and was kind of how I feel like they were able to open up and kind of shine in that you are seeing young Black queer demographic here in 2020, in this day and age, where these people feel encouraged. They're sharing their stories, their backgrounds. Some are talking about very difficult conversations to talk about, like Palmer, and it's just like they're being so open and vulnerable to you. So I do thank you and echo that what went into finding these subjects and these misrepresented groups within a very largely misrepresented community. Kudos to that. I wanted to ask also to that, with this the Black Lives Matter element and the Black Lives Matter protests, how that impacted and definitely shaped the course of where this documentary, like you said, started from and expanded from. If you want to get into that.
Most definitely. Well, during the time of the lockdown and the curating of Black as You Are, along with my other producers and teammates, I was going through a lot. Everyone was, not only
Hey, Michael, I think
in America.
Hey, Michael, you might have to repeat that. I think we're getting some feedback.
Okay, can you hear me now? All right. So, like a lot of people, I was going through a lot of trauma during the time of the curating of Black as You Are, as well as everyone else who were going through COVID, but also having to be at home and during the shutdown and having to see that violence of Black bodies being abused and murdered over and over again, from George Floyd to Tiana Taylor to Ahmaud Arbery, to seeing all these people murdered and then watch the news and see it play over and over and over again. It became traumatizing. And so for me to deal with that trauma, I needed to use my God-given gift, which to me is art, which is me directing, which is theater, which is film. And so I decided to do that. I was listening to interviews by Marlon Riggs. I was listening to interviews by Nina Simone and James Baldwin and Lorraine Hansberry and all these people that were inspiring me to get up and make a move and make a change in my community. And I felt that if I don't do it now, when is the time? So that's when I really got up and started working on this documentary, was actually during COVID. It not only helped me tell the stories of the subject in the film, but it also helped me internally as a Black man in America and also as a Black queer man in America. And so using my story and where I grew up in the South, and then moving to New York and kind of growing into, I really wanted to tell those stories. And so that's what I did. That's what I did. I formulated it. I decided to get my team together. I decided to get the young people who were so amazing in telling their stories, from Palmer to Aphrodite and a lot of the village kids that you saw in the scene, and also to telling the story about Dominique. You know, when I truly got the urge to create Black as You Are is when I saw the brutal killing of, or the brutal beating of Ayanna Dior, a young trans girl in St. Paul, Minneapolis, who at the time I believe was 19 years old when this attack happened. And this crowd, no one really helping her, something of that nature.
Hey, Michael, we're getting some feedback again. Feel free. I don't know if you can still hear me. We are getting some feedback.
I can hear you.
Okay, sweet. I can hear you now too. If you wanted to maybe continue, and I'm happy to maybe step in. I think to that, what you were saying about especially the talent and the focus, as well as the background, I think, of yourself, Michael. You say you're or not say, but you are a very multidisciplinary director and performer and artist, and you say that you know that play incorporated into, like, just in addition to some of the focus and some of the respects that you pay homage to, as far as like some of the greats that you've learned from and study. And Michael, I just wanted to highlight that I felt like this film for sure showcased that in a way that you can see a creative bust in a theater background. It's artful, it's dancey, it's intimate, it is queer as fuck, excuse my language, but it's very queer and embodied. And you can see an assortment of your disciplinaries background kind of incumbent into that into this one piece. So that's all to say. I did want to note that as you mentioned that, and as you said, how the Black Lives Matter did kind of spark this fuel of creation for you as an artist into your work. Kind of wanted to echo that as we were moving on, and I know we were kind of losing audio in and out there. I would say one of my next questions and just comments in continuation to that would just be the style of the film. Michael, it feels like this is like just a glamorized, like pop, happy, just like campy commercial. It's like you are not seeing Black people look as happy and successful and as themselves as you typically see them portrayed in the media. Can you talk about your choices of style into making Black as You Are and showcasing the subjects in the film with such a flavor, let's say?
Well, I wanted to do something that was honest and true to myself. I'm a theater baby, at heart. And so my creativity started in the world of theater before film. And so theater is what I knew, is what I know prior to getting into film about 10 years ago. And so I wanted to use what was already in my spirit. I wanted to use my art as a director, whether it's film or theater, to put actors on stage and to create a play and a story that will talk about Black queerness and what does that look like in today's society. When it comes to the style, I wanted to see how I could mix in a play with a documentary, also with the autobiography of myself, which I thought was very hybrid kind of a documentary. It has a multitude of different influences. There's aspects that could be seen as a verite documentary, but there's also aspects that could be seen as a thesis documentary, where we have like professors that are giving their spiel about what white supremacy looks like in this country, what patriarchal domination looks like in this country, and how it can be how it can come as a detrimental factor to many people because it has an authority of having power over. So you have not only the play and theater aspect, you have the autobiography aspect of myself, but then you have the thesis aspects and the academia of the professors, and then we have the documentary aspect, the general documentary aspect when it comes to the subject, and then going into their lives. And I wanted to be able to hop back and forth, make it very episodic in time, so that people and queer Black people can see ourselves in history. We're not just about what happened in the past 30 years, and we're not all just ballroom, and we're not all just what's happened with Pose in the past 7 years or 6 years. We were way before that. And I wanted to showcase that. And there's nothing wrong with those other elements, but we need to know that we're more than just what happened 30 years ago, or our history didn't start when HIV/AIDS came to be known. We had a history before that. We have greatness before that. And so I wanted to make sure that we understood that. And the biggest lesson of all, and the biggest objective of all within Black as You Are, is self-love, self-affirmation, loving oneself, and being able to have dialogue with your community.
And Michael, it's such an important and well-needed dialogue to have. Myself as a programmer, there are things that I focus on and fight for to the death of making sure that they make it onto the big screen, make it onto the theater, because I know the impact and the importance that that can have, and how much a film like yours, how enriched and important and just unique of a dialogue that it is having. That, as a programmer, one of the biggest subjects and feedback I got from our programming committee was that some of our members were saying like, oh, like these are conversations like, I'm not having, but I feel like most people need to be having. And that's me, like a Black queer boy from the Caribbean. I'm like, these are conversations I am having day in, day out. So, to expand that and to make sure that we are able to fully engage our community and fully engage on different aspects of the issue at hand, which is that, Black queer lives are secondary in the conversation of Black Lives Matter. I say that absolutely. I thank you for your work to that too. I know your last film prior to this, Party Boy, as well touched on very hard, rough issues. I don't know if you want to talk about that film, talk about just some of the subjects there and kind of how that even embodies into this piece of work as well.
Right. Well, Party Boy is a documentary that journeys into the world of crystal meth addiction within Black and brown LGBT spaces. It mostly took place in New York, but it became a phenomenon of crystal meth use within the Black queer demographic in the past 7 years, definitely in the past 7 to 8 years. And because it affected me personally with having friends that overdosed and lost their lives, at the time, 8 years ago, I didn't know what crystal meth really was. I heard about it. I thought it was something in a drug that only white gay men use or people in the rural Midwest would use. I didn't think it would happen to the Black queer demographic, but I was totally wrong. And when it did, it shook my foundation. I understood and knew about crack because I had family members that dealt with crack when I was a little kid, and I kind of knew what that looked like. But this wasn't crack. This was a whole nother situation. And I'm also an adult now. So I thought it was important that somebody in the community um, take the initiative to sweep the dirt from under the rug and expose it and say, hey, this is happening to our community. We need to talk about it. I did it with Party Boy, and it made a huge impact. I've been touring with that film for almost 6 years, and now we're on to Black as You Are, which is another conversation about queer phobia in the Black community and what does that look like. And this film is not just for the Black community; it's for everyone. It talks about adversity, and I really want to thank people like you, Trent, and Jim, because a lot of times what I've realized and noticed sometimes is that I've gotten a lot of flack back from kind of like exposing truths in our community. But these are things that I feel that needed to be put out there so we can have conversations with our community. I was inspired by Patrick Ian Polk, Rodney Evans, who created Brother to Brother, Marlon E. Riggs, Maurice Jamal. Those people inspired me as I was a teenager coming up into the film game. And I want to be able to inspire another body of young queer folks to see themselves because when I created Black as You Are, I wanted to create something that I never saw before. In all the research that I have never seen a full-length documentary like Black as You Are, which explores the complexities of the Black and brown LGBTQIA plus community dealing with history, dealing with academia, dealing with people's actual lives, dealing with Black Lives Matter, dealing with civil rights and civil justice situations, where it actually came and was created from a Black queer person and not someone that's other than our own community. And it hits differently when you have a piece of creation come from this of a queer person rather than out the eyes and the landscape, the landscape of someone else. It hits different. And so I'm really hoping that not only out on film, but other festivals and other possibly distributions that we're going to be dealing with will really bring Black as You Are to the forefront because everyone can learn something from this. And I want it to be a phenomenon. I want it to be something that we can watch in schools, and that's what I made it for. I made it for us and I made it for the world.
No, absolutely. I think thank you for one continuing this I'd say mission and objective and form of advocacy as well as activism through your work in media to showcase these stories. Because, like you said, with Party Boys, that was a documentary you had back in 2019, exposing it, and on a smaller base and more so what your scope is. But it's like that is an epidemic that is impacting us. I think about the Jamel and Temple conversation and Buck and how disparities continue to happen because of racism in America and because of how these drugs and substances and these stereotypes and these different vices marginally impact us to a scale that is irreversible. So thank you for bringing that to light. Like you said, you have been on the forefront of that, and fast forwarding, now I wanted to bring that point up too. There's that look of the Black Lives Matter movement. You're looking at people actively in the streets, seeing not only experiencing COVID, but also seeing like a social justice reform in the US that we most have never seen. People my age and younger, never really been there and seen that kind of plot. Of course, I did see the protest back when I'm sorry, I'm blanking right now, but all to say, the activism and this documentary captivated what being queer was in this nation so vividly. It was that we are outside actively protesting against, violence, police discrimination, unjusted violence on Black lives, and then in the same in the same flight, we are experiencing that in a larger scale that is just like embedded in us. It's stuff that we don't want to talk about and don't want to really address and don't want to really, you know, have that conversation about. But I thank you for having that conversation. My next question was going to be the barbershop kind of pilot into the film. I was telling Craig, I haven't got my hair cut in since probably the last time we saw each other in San Francisco. But just because it's so hard to find, or feel comfortable going into a barbershop and going into a space. I find myself just like, I'd rather avoid anything other than that. You, however, especially in this documentary, went into a barbershop and had one of the, I think, the most amazing, rich conversations. I don't know if you want to maybe talk about that and just share about what that was like experiencing and how that made and break the film.
Yes, thank you so much for that. Yeah, when creating that scene in the barbershop, I mean, it was very organic. The owner of the shop wanted to let us know that he didn't have the time to like schedule things. He just gave us a direct time to come in, and whoever was there was there. So none of it was set up. We had no idea who the people or the patrons in the actual chairs would be. It was, you come in at this time, you get people to sign their release forms, and then you guys got to leave out by a certain time. So whatever happens, happens. We're not going to make anything light for you guys. If you want us to be real, we're going to keep it real. And that's truly what happened. Going into that barbershop with the crew and I, and sitting and listening, talking to the patrons and also the barbers themselves about trans issues and Black Lives Matter issues, and seeing that kind of cornucopia of different emotions and reactions to in that one place was incredibly enlightening. Some of it had aspects of being kind of disheartening, but it was more enlightening than anything, because as a Black gay man growing up in the South, I've always had this fear of being outed in the barbershop. It never happened to me, but I just had this fear. And even as a grown man, I still had that, a little bit of that anxiety at the time. But one of the things that I was so proud of myself, just as in my own growth, was to sit in my uncomfortableness to make somebody else comfortable for the future. And I'm okay with doing that. And I did it. And there was a lot of oppositions and people not really caring about the LGBT issues. But then one of the most beautiful things was to watch that film and to see that young, cis, heterosexual teenager stand up or sit down in his matter as he was getting his haircut and stand up for human rights and people's rights. And I wanted to show that. I didn't want to down the Black man, but I wanted, because I'm also a Black man too, regardless of me being queer or whatever. But I wanted to show that young heterosexual Black teen. I wanted to show the world that's where the future, is going, and that's where the future is heading to. And people who think like this. And I wanted to end it off on that positive note, because of that young man was so inspirational, so direct, that he even inspired me as a filmmaker, sitting in my chair, getting my hair cut, listening to him talk about how we need to respect each other and how we shouldn't let the text within a religion deem whether or not our children are worthy or not, and it's all about love. And I love that. And that's one of the messages and one of the terms that I just wanted to keep pressing forward. It's all about love. It's all about love. It's all about your own self-affirmation.
Absolutely, Michael. I thank you so much to that. Like I said, that barbershop conversation was a barbershop conversation, if I've ever seen one. I thought that, just it just sets itself up in the conversation of like where we fit and how we're seen in the community. You also touched about religion and how religion has been a tool to, harm and has been weaponized against the queer community, especially within the Black community, as most are fair assortment of religious African-Americans celebrate Christianity. I wanted to talk about, I think, who was it? Was it Aphrodite, maybe, or no, who was it? Palmer. Palmer's conversation about kind of his transition into the church or leaving the church and
Mhm.
church. I guess to that is my I guess let me change that conversation or question around
Mhm.
completely. I want to ask just about the subjects of the film. I want to see what they're at, what they are doing, how are they. I fell in love, I think, with each one of them. I thought that they were such a unique gem to see such youth showcased in the site. Are you still keeping up with them? How they told you about this documentary and how it's impacted them on their future and their look on life and all that good stuff?
Well, it's been amazing. As we know, well, some people know that unfortunately, Dominique is no longer with us, but she's with us in spirit, and we will continue to uh, raise awareness and bring positivity to her legacy and her story as a Black trans woman. Ayana Dior, from the last time I spoke to her, it was probably almost close to a year ago, but maybe about 9 months ago, but she's doing well from the last time I spoke to her. When it comes to Aphrodite and Ivy and Spicy, Candy, they're doing incredibly well. We are going to have hopefully some of them come to some more screenings to do Q and A's. Palmer's doing absolutely well. I just did a screening with Palmer in Texas for the Aglyph Festival, and he's doing amazing. And everyone's doing their thing. Goldie is going around the country performing her music, which I absolutely love. You talk about a transformation. You talk about a steady incline in positivity. I'm so proud of Goldie and just taking that initiative. It takes a lot of guts to be able to say I'm going to be a performer or an entertainer or whatever you may be and really go forward. And so I support them in all of their endeavors. I've even helped sponsor some of the things that they have going on. So we are all definitely in contact.
That is the best part of just watching the growth and the journey. I think that this film is going to be able to take, I think, every single one of them on. Michael, to that, I would like to ask what is next. I know it's not that I'm tired of Black as You Are. I will program this film for a few more years, but I do want to know, are we working on anything next? You are a man of many, many, many disciplines. So yeah, are there any things in the works, anything that you are excited to share or talk about, or I know you also have a unique press tour shift with Black as You Are. I think you're shifting more overseas and whatnot. Feel free to share any and all
Yeah.
good news.
Well, yeah, I actually have a deal that was greenlit from Audible. And so we're excited about that. We actually just finished. I can't give you the name of the project due to contract, but
Absolutely.
you'll be finding out at the top of 2023.
That's exciting. Congrats to
I
that.
would definitely let you know. I wish I could tell you, but
No,
contract binding,
no, NDAs
but
don't. We'll
let me
take
tell you something. Yeah, I would definitely as soon as we get the green light that we can tell media, I'm definitely gonna call you, Trent. I'm like, hey, I got the scoop. I got the
Look,
scoop.
look, 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 look. I'm gonna pick up the phone. I'll be ready. No, that's super exciting. Michael, I'm trying to think. Do I have another question here? I feel like I do, but I also probably can't think of anything right now. Michael, I thank you incredibly for your time here today. I can't describe how important of a film this is
Oh, thank you so much.
for everyone here in our audience, in our watching. Black as You Are will be screening at the Atlanta Film Festival as a premiere screening. That's going to be September the 25th, and that's at 7 o'clock. We've got just an exciting conversation and panel to be happening before in celebration of this wonderful piece of work. Like he said, my Atlanta is kind of a mecca and staple for Black queer culture and arts and theater and civil rights history. So I think the energy and the synergy that'll be at that screening, Michael, I do look forward to. And I do look forward to seeing everything that you've got going on next and seeing you continue to spread this amazing film and amazing message and see what's next in your line of work. I know the next film, I know it's going to be Black as hell. I know it's going to be queer as hell. And I just, I kudos to that. And we are all, at least on our team, we are all supportive and looking forward to all the great things that you're providing our community, Michael.
Thank you so much, Trent. I really appreciate that. I really appreciate all of you, Jim, Craig, the entire team over there at Out on Film. I cannot wait to get there. I'll be heading right to Atlanta from London.
Nice.
So yeah, I love it.
That's awesome. That's exciting. I will be watching, we'll be keeping up, and we'll also just continue to be sharing the film. Thank you so much for attending, Micheal. I'm going to cut this short. Yeah, sweet. Feel free to just check outonfilm.com for anything coming up. Our festival official dates are September 22nd to October 2nd. Micheal, it's been awesome talking to you. Thank you so much again, and cheers to everything and everything
Thank
else.
you. Thank
All right,
you, everyone. Bye.
bye-bye.